Okay, in this part of the Academy program, we're going to look at fundamental macro and game understanding. What I'm going to show you guys now here is pretty much the deepest, most core fundamental macro that exists in League of Legends. It's what I worked with the most with all of the professional teams I worked with when I joined Origin, when I joined Fnatic, when I joined Innocent Pyjamas, with my current team in Switzerland, Postfinance Helix. It is always, in a way, coming back to this and improving the core fundamentals of the game. What I'm going to go through here in this video is going to be what I personally call the Holy Trinity. It is pressure, vision control, and time management. These three is the entire game. Everything within the game can be found within these. And they hang together, and you cannot really utilize one to the fullest without the two others. So it's really important to understand how they work and how they interact and what they actually mean. Which part in the game, either early game or mid game or late game, those are the answers. Does one player, regardless of role, have the biggest potential to make an impact? I would always say that it's the early game. And the reason why it is early game is because the early game is the only time in the game where everybody is separated and split up on the map. The further the game goes on, the game becomes a 4v4 or into 5v5. And the difference of being a 1 versus 1 in the top lane or a 2 versus 2 in the bot lane, where you are one player in the solo lanes, you are 100% of the lane. If you are in the bottom lane, you're 50% of the lane. The jungler interferes, obviously it gets divided by one more person. But in the later stages of the game, when you're 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5, you are 25% or you are 20%. The more people are participating in a skirmish or a fight or a situation, the lesser individual potential and impact will you have. The early game is the part of the game where people are the most spread out on the map, which also means that that is the part of the game where we're able to execute our own potential to the highest. It is also the time in the game where it's easiest to create a number advantage. Imagine that we spot the enemy jungler doing Gromp, and our jungler decides to go to the top lane and gank. Now he created a 2v1 situation in the top lane. He created a numbers advantage situation, and this is way easier to make happen in the early game than it is in a 4v4 or 5v5 mid to late game situation where everybody's grouped up. It is just way easier to read and understand when things can happen compared to the early game. It can also be just in a lane where you rotate to a side lane, or a top laner or a support or whatever rotates to mid lane. You can easily create number advantage situation, and number advantage situation is the highest probability of getting a positive play in the game and in any MOBA for that matter. So if we can agree on that the early game is when you as a single individual player has the biggest impact potential, if we can just agree on that, then it is important that we understand the value of the map. So the way that I do it is I usually split the map into two pieces. We have the upper part including mid lane. We have the lower part including bot lane, including mid lane as well, sorry. So you see there's two parts, the upper part with mid lane and the lower part with mid lane. And then the question will be, which part is more valuable in the early game and why? And it's really important to understand the differences here. So the differences on the map right now is that you have the dragon, which spawns at 5 minutes right now on the current patch. And on the upper side, you have the herald, which spawns at 9:55, so pretty much 10 minutes. That is a big difference to begin with. Another difference is that there's 6 players, not including the jungler, on the lower half of the map, but there's only 4 on the upper part of the map. If the junglers are included, they can obviously make it 6 on the upper half or 8 on the lower half. The way that you should think about it is, if you can gain an advantage or take control over either side of the map, which side is more valuable? I would say, regardless of Dragon and Herald existing, if you create an advantage mid to bot side, where you enable 3 players on your team, and you put 3 players on their team behind, that'll always be more valuable than getting your mid and top laner ahead on this at the same time. The dragon spawns way earlier than the herald. You can even get 2 dragons if you take it exactly when it spawns pretty much by the time you can take the herald. And the dragons by themselves are way stronger than the herald and just a better objective to play around. So by controlling the bottom side of the half, you are enabling more players at the same time, you are disabling more players at the same time, and you are controlling the side of the map with the better neutral objective. So in my head, it will always be the bottom half of the map, including mid lane. The funny thing here is when I coach junglers, I tell them that 95% of your pressure, 95% of your focus, and 95% of your games should be on the bottom half. That is a huge percentage. When I coach top laners, I tell them that in the early game, your job is to have an impact to the lower side of the map. If you can enable the side of the map with more players at the same time, that should overall make your team stronger in the game. And the more players you have being strong, the higher win % chance you will have within the game. So if we agree that the bottom half is the more important, it is also important to understand how we take proper control over that side. To begin with, the most valuable area within the bottom half of the map will always, no matter what, be the bot side river. This is mimicked on the top side if you do want to play for the top side for whatever reason, those 5%. Oh, and I can tell you that the 5% are, if it's nearly impossible for you as a jungler to do anything on the bottom half of the map, or your bot lane is just, you just see that it's going to shit, you know, then that might lead you to not play for bot side, but it's not enough by itself. So I always say that it needs to be very, very hard or not valuable for you to play for the bottom side. At the same time, the top laners are both playing high volatile, squishy, snowbally champions. Imagine like a Fiora Riven matchup, like where if one of them gets ahead, it's just game breaking. If one of the top laners are a tank or a bruiser or something like this, then we just don't care. It does not mean that you do never gank and you don't go there when you have a free kill or a free tower or whatever. That's not what it means. It just means your general focus and pressure and how you spend your time within the game should be towards the side of the map that you want to enable, that you think have the highest win % chance for your team in this game. To control the bot side river, we want to have a control ward in the pixel brush and in the bot side river brush. This enables our jungler to play in the dragon area and to rotate in the river without being spotted by the enemy team if he paths correctly. It also gives us control around the dragon area. It disables the enemy jungler to gank through the river. It enables our laners to move within the river without being spotted. So pretty much the rivers on both sides of the map are just the huge intersection in the game where everything revolves around it and goes through it. So if you can hold control there, it is game breaking. When we started this part of the academy, I told you that the pressure and the vision control and the time management, it hangs together, right? To begin with, I think it's important to understand the difference of vision and vision control. If I place a control word in the enemy jungle, most people think that this means that you have vision control there. But it doesn't, because at any time the enemy jungler can just walk and take it, and our team can do nothing to disable him. It's just the same as having a ward. And when you have a regular ward, we all agree that it's just vision. But even a regular ward can be vision control. Imagine that you have a ward here, you have pressure in your lane, so you can defend it, and your jungler is playing on the bottom half of the map, and we have already sweeped it. Or you've already placed the pink ward there, and then you move the pink ward somewhere else. Now you know that this brush is clear, you can defend it, that is vision control. If you have complete vision over an area, you know that the enemy team does not have vision there, and you can defend it, so that the enemy team can just not go and take it freely, that is vision control. And it is important to understand when I say that we need vision control in the bot side river, it means not only do you want to have control words in the two brushes like this, but you also want to put your team in a position where we can defend the vision that we already have out, the control words that we have out. And that's also why the jungler needs to play on the side where you want to have control, because you can never have control over an area if you're not able to contest the vision that you've already placed down. It is so incredibly important to understand this. When you watch professional games, you will see it all the time. Both teams contesting vision in an area. And it's only controlled when one team completely denies the other team to go and replace their vision in that area. That is the only time the team has control.